is a
Hey,
we're
what's up,
live,
guys?
everybody. Welcome back.
What's going on?
Welcome back to Is It Crazy or Is It God? Where we, Faith and James,
Yep.
aspire to inspire a community of Bible readers. You don't have to start out as a Bible reader, but come along for the journey with us. This is going to be a fun episode because we're not doing what we typically do. We, in our aim to incorporate Bible readers, like to inspire people to read the Bible, we thought it would be fun to go over some Bible facts and some questions that we had, and just some of the answers that we found, and also go over a couple of questions that I have for James that I'm also going to answer. So that's what we're doing today on our live version of Is It Crazy or Is It God? I'm going to start off like we did a few weeks ago.
Okay.
By asking you, what have you learned this week?
That what I've learned this week.
You want me to start? If you want to think about it a little bit. Man, this was a really long and weird week for me. Yeah, that's the most I could say. It's like it was super long. I can't believe, I can't believe this was all 1 week. As many things have happened this week. It was just a lot. So I definitely learned a couple of things, like the importance of like restorative activities. We actually did a meeting this week that was led by my colleagues where they talked about self-care. And it's funny because I applied that right away. Like I knew what self-care was, but it's basically when you do something that restores energy. I mean, that's just the long and short of it, my interpretation. But I definitely needed to do that this week because, there's just a lot has been happening. And so I definitely had a good week, but I learned that you really have to pour back into yourself. However it is you find yourself doing that, or however, whatever you need at the time, because I feel like self-care is something that like you don't do the same regimented thing all the time, but maybe it's getting exercise, maybe it's, taking a bath, maybe it's, going to get a massage or going to the nail salon, or, maybe it's reading. A lot of times reading is relaxing for people. Maybe it's cleaning. It's something that gives you energy at the end of it. Maybe it's your hobby. If your hobby gives you like a boost of energy, and it doesn't have to necessarily be physical energy, but just like something that restores you. So I definitely learned the importance of that and put it into practice. So that's my lesson for this week. That was what I learned this week.
Man, that was a good one. I definitely didn't learn that.
You learned how to make some bomb tacos. That was a funny thing that happened this week.
I probably learned maybe to be a little bit more patient with myself and give myself a little bit more credit. Especially we came from the restaurant industry to now. When our environment has changed, I gotta allow some patience and appreciate God more for what He's given us. Because I don't think I do that enough. Right? And that's what I wanna do, and I need to commit to. I need to learn how to commit.
So these are things that you need to learn.
Yeah. What did I learn this week?
But patience. That's okay.
Yeah,
patience.
I learned patience.
You worked on it because I think it's a practice, right? Like learning is always a practice. And even as we know, when you learn something and you know something to be true, it's still, you could still forget it, or you could still keep it out of practice, right? Because there's so many times where, especially like the business books and stuff that we read, or like the articles, or like the little snippets of things that we learn from different people that we affiliate with. It's like you could know something, but then not implement it. So it just doesn't mean anything, right? So I think learning is a practice, but Good for you. You learned a little bit of patience this
Yeah,
week.
man. Sometimes I, I, my expectation for myself is higher,
Yeah.
which is a great thing though,
Yeah.
because nobody can let me down, right? Like for instance, I was after you filmed those two sisters, I was helping Demita walk to her car. And I was like, man, I gotta get, I gotta be more consistent. She was like, yo, y'all guys just came from the previous restaurant, right?
Mm-hmm.
Y'all are here. Y'all about to buy a house. You were
Mm-hmm.
like,
Yeah,
I
you're
was
doing
like,
okay.
oh
Sometimes
man,
if you stop
yeah,
and look around and see the
yeah.
progress that
I
you've
was like,
made,
oh, I guess
yeah, I have to remind you of that often, and I also have to be reminded myself.
yeah,
So it's
yeah,
not just
yeah.
you.
So
But yeah, you're doing all right. And the
yeah,
thing
yeah,
about it is, you wake up every day and try. You
yeah,
try hard, and you do a lot, and a lot gets done because you are always working towards it. So
yeah,
anyway, this isn't meant to do that. This was just to say,
well, yeah.
how our week, what we learned this week and what we applied. Okay, so let's get into it
These are
because
questions that she made up.
I
I
made
have,
up these questions because
I
they're things
barely
that
looked at them. I looked
that's
at a couple,
fine.
barely.
That's fine. He'll be fine, guys. He has his phone right there. He can Google if
It's
he
gonna
wants.
be.
We're gonna.
I'm just gonna answer it naturally.
That's
That's
right.
what I like doing.
And we're gonna incorporate a couple of fun facts about the Bible that I think are cool. And we might come up with some stuff too along the way that we want to. And we both have our little mini computers here
They
that we
are.
can Google
They're many.
to see if we have a question that that we don't know the answer to. So I'll start with one of the questions for you,
Yeah,
and then I'll share a fun fact.
yeah.
And then you can ask a question to me, and then you share a fun fact. Does that work for you?
Yeah.
Okay. The first question. Oh, this is a good one. The first question I have for you is,
Uh-huh.
what are the most impactful parts of the Bible for you so far? And it doesn't have to be one, and it doesn't have to be the most impactful, but
Okay, I can give you.
what are the most impactful parts? So we've been reading, and I think we're about um I think we're about
like that.
a little bit of a third of the way through.
30% maybe.
I feel like we might be at like 35%.
35.
I think we're about 35% of the way through reading the entire Bible. And I'm asking him, with that much read, what are the most impactful parts that you've read so far? That
Okay.
have impacted you?
Moses.
Mm.
When Moses went to speak to God for 40 days and 40 nights, I think it was that. I know, no, it rained, but I believe he was up there for 40 days, 40 nights. To connect with God on that level. We've read the Bible so far, and nobody has gotten to that point that they're talking to God one on one, and God's giving Moses specific instructions. The golden calf.
Oh, so why the golden calf?
Well, because you can, you need, first of all, we all need God. When God's not there, we go on our own devices. Second of all, God could have killed everybody. He was mad, right? But Moses prayed for them and he forgave them and he gave everybody an ultimatum. And, you know, that just reminds me that it's okay. Listen, you're going to sin regardless, but God's going to forgive you. Because that's egregious, And it wasn't just anybody, it was the high priest Aaron. So, so if you left to your own devices, you're going to stray. Another part of the Bible that I try to constantly remember is when the Israelites were in the wilderness and God got them out of Egypt. They went through the wilderness, but because they didn't listen to specific instructions, they got stranded for 40 years. But during that time, they complained. God gave them everything they needed. He even had manna, gave them bread from heaven, and they still complained. And it just reminds me that just because God, like, if you ask for a table and a tree falls in your yard, there's your table. You have to build it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And stop complaining when God gives you everything that you need, not that you deserve. You got to work for that. The third thing is Joseph. I really like the Joseph story. When Joseph had the most patient I've ever seen anybody in the Bible as of yet. He went to jail for 20 years. He got sold into slavery. And he's just still praising God the whole time. He never complained. He didn't complain not once. And
that's a good reference.
Yeah, and then God rewarded him by being king. And when you tell somebody God's visions that he has for you, no matter if they're family, you might get laughed at. Because they don't see it. God didn't give it to them. He gave it to you.
Yeah.
You have to understand that. He didn't give it to his brothers. He got made fun of and they sold him into slavery, which is gangster because they tried to kill him. I was like, golly, man.
Yeah.
And
that's what I was going to say. Not only did he get laughed at, but he also got like roughed up a little bit. They threw him down the well. They sold him into slavery. It's like, come on, man.
And then the one more impactful story with Isaac. Isaac and his brother Esau, right?
Yeah.
Isaac swindling his brother out his
wild one.
His birthright. God says, I got something for you. He ended up working 20 years and ended up marrying somebody he didn't want to.
Just to get.
Well,
I think it was, overall, it was 20-something years.
It was 20-something years.
But he had to work 8 years to get Rachel. And wait, which one was the one? He wanted Rachel. So first he got Leah. Then he had to work 8 more years, I think, to get.
This is Joseph's father. Yeah. Who actually is the original 12 tribes of Israel.
Leah and Rachel. I hope I got that right. Yeah. If I didn't,
I think it is. I think
all the more reason for you to read along with us. So
Leah was the one he didn't like, but she would bear all the children.
Yeah.
But remember, Joseph was Rachel's son. That's why he favored Joseph a lot. He favored Joseph over his other sons because it came from Rachel, which is his true love. That's why they were hating on him.
Who was Rebecca? Am I making that up?
No, it was Rachel and Leah.
Okay. Anyway.
Yeah. But he did. But they were instrumental because they were the 12 tribes of Israel. But what stands out to me the most, not only that, but when he left, he was wrestling with God so much. God named him Israel. He was wrestling with God. Now, whether it's physical or mental. He's wrestling with the angel. The guy's like, golly, man, you just won't commit.
Yeah.
So those are the stories that stand out. Yeah.
It's funny to me because...
And we're not done David yet, so I don't want to we got to finish his story first before I like to finish the stories. And then it's like watching the whole movie, then you can critique it. So... David is definitely going to be in there. We just got to finish his story first. So those are my.
It's interesting to me because there's so many stories in the Bible, and you brought up something just now about we don't know whether it was literal or whether it was just a like a figurative thing. But I actually take these stories quite literally, and reading them now, we kind of think of them figuratively because a lot of times we can't imagine these things happening, right? Like seeing a burning bush or, something like that. But I do believe that these things happen literally. Okay, so you said something about Moses 40 days. Yes, I'm looking at Wikipedia right now. So I Googled it and I got I got the same answer from a couple different sources, but right now I'm reading from Wikipedia. According to the biblical story, Moses departed to the mountain and stayed there for 40 days and nights in order to receive the 10 Commandments. And he did so twice because he broke the first set of the tablets after he returned from the mountain the first time, because you said the calf, the golden calf. It's also interesting to me that we see 40 a lot. We see the number 40 a lot in the Bible.
Yeah.
So with the 40 days and 40 nights, that it rained, right? That Noah was on the boat. Well, he was on the boat for more than that. It was like, I think at least a year, but it rained for that long. So, and then we see Moses is up there on the top of the mountain, Mount Sinai. Or Mount Sinai. I don't know how to pronounce it. I don't know. It looks like Sinai, but I think it's Mount Sinai. He went up there twice for 40 days, 40 nights. That makes me intrigued about the number 40. I know there's a whole set of numbers that are from the Bible that, people go by for certain things. Okay, so now, and I gave you a fact because we talked about the Moses thing. I'll answer for myself. What are the most impactful parts of the Bible so far for me? I think, what stands out to me the most so far is the miracles that happened to the Israelites and their, like their ignorance, right? Because I just think I know for sure I'm an Israelite. It's like impatient, like I want what I want right away, then that's not enough, so and obviously I'm not proud of that, but I could just see myself in the Israelites. So the fact that they wandered in the wilderness for 40 years, right? It's weird that this number 40 keeps coming up because they were in the wilderness for 40 years, right?
Yeah.
And it was only supposed to take them 11 days, which is one of my favorite numbers. It was only supposed to be an 11-day journey, but it took them 40 years because they was in there just, just fooling around, like complaining and learning the same lessons over and over again. And I could definitely relate to that. And it's like,
the 40 days too? It rained?
No, it rained, but he was on the boat for longer, but it rained for 40 days. 40 nights. So 40 is an interesting number. Yeah. I also feel like, so definitely the miracles that they saw, even after they saw the miracles, I'm saying this out loud and I just know I'm an Israelite. It's wild. The miracles that they saw out of Egypt and then going into the wilderness and then staying in there for 40 years because they weren't learning their lesson and they were just kind of like not getting it. That is probably the thing that sticks out to me so far the most. Now there have been several things, and I see David's story is actually imprinting on my brain because I see how he is praying through his trials, right? It's just like these things that you just don't want to happen to you are happening to him, and he is praying through it. Doesn't make him perfect, but God is blessing him, and he is just so, steadfast with his prayer. Like he is a master prayer. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's interesting and dope, and I want to learn how to be like that. And just we're in the Psalms right now, and it's kind of interesting because there's songs and poems and things like that, prayers, but just to know that a lot of these were David's writing. It was things that he was going through, and the fact that he put them in such words where it's still relevant today is really kind of cool because this was a long time ago. Which brings me to the first fact, which is how old is the Bible? Now, this is something that so I looked up the definition of the Bible, which we know what the Bible is, but it says it's a collection of religious texts or scriptures that are held to be sacred in Christianity, Judaism, Samaritanism, and other religions. It's an anthology, a compilation of texts in a variety of forms. Originally written in Hebrew, Aramaic, and Koine Greek. So the question is, how old is the Bible? It was compiled over an estimated 1,600 years, but it doesn't say how old it is. So I don't know. So I asked that question and I don't have an answer. Well, we'll keep looking for that because that's a good question. How old is the Bible? Because it's still relevant. How old is the Bible? Let's see. There it is.
1,600 years.
That's how long it took to
1200 and 165 BC.
Right. I don't understand all of that stuff.
I don't.
Like
2,700 years old.
2,700 years old. We're gonna go with that. If you guys know, oh yep, that's what I see too from BigThink.com. The oldest biblical text we found is 2,700 years old.
Yeah.
Oh, gotquestions.org, which I don't, I'm not affiliated with any of these websites. We're just asking the internet and seeing what comes up. They said it's between 3,400 and 1,900 years old. So that means that 2,700 falls right in the middle of that. Yeah. I mean, I guess you would have to think, like, if you say how old is the Bible, how old from when it started being written, or how old till the last part.
Know the Bible is the beginning of the earth, but when did it get written is probably what everybody's thinking.
Or the Bible isn't necessarily the beginning of the earth, it's the accounting of.
The accounting,
right?
Of, so God created heaven and the earth. It says it in the Bible, but when was it written is
a different thing. Like, how old is the Bible? Here's another thing I always think about.
The Bible could be when God created the earth, so it's like, how old is the earth? That's in the Bible. But the thing is, when was it written?
Right. So we're not talking about, it's like if I'm asking you questions about common day sports and then you go back to something in the 80s, that doesn't mean that, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's like,
started.
So this is my thing. And one of the things I always think about is all of the people who had to live during the biblical times who didn't have the Bible as a guide.
Yeah.
Because that's got to be tough. Like, there's so many words of wisdom and things. We talk about this all the time. Like you're living, it's happening while you're living. Like so Job, it's not even Moses, like you can refer to it to say, no, they had the commandments for a long time from Moses. And that was like the original.
Like the tent.
Yeah. Like the Bible, like that we have, like, here's my Bible right here. Yeah. And you can go and buy a Bible. But they didn't have that. They didn't, first of all, they didn't have they didn't have Amazon. You can't just order your Bible.
I think it was a lot different back then too.
Yeah.
I think the customs were different. I think the way people talk and interact were different. People were, from the stories in the Bible, there's like if you're in a small town, you could get raided and conquered.
Yeah.
Like it was no like.
Well, there's some countries that still roll like that.
Yes, they are. They are. But there was no like United States and Russia and all. Mm-hmm. It was like, you could kill or be killed back then.
Look.
It's still like that, but like I'm talking about horses.
Yeah, back then. It's also something. Wild. Okay, here's another. We're not gonna get hung up on this, but certain things always like I started laughing at it, like just the idea that they had to walk everywhere. You know what I'm saying? Everywhere. Like when they're traveling, when they're moving, they had to pack up their camels or whatever. And go to the next
camels, horses. Right?
Yeah,
they have horses. Right?
I believe. Yeah. I don't really know. I just know that we've read some things that was like.
Did we read a horse? Yeah, they have horses.
So they pack everything up, especially when they talked about the tabernacle.
Yeah,
right. They had to pack everything up, roll everything up, keep things separate, or else if you touched it and you wasn't an Israelite, you could get killed.
No, not that. You had to be a priest.
Okay, my bad.
Like a Levite, or if you touched it, you're gonna die.
Well, so that's the thing.
That's crazy.
And they had to pack all that stuff up there. Also, when we were reading this past part about David and Bathsheba, you pointed out that he was sitting on the couch, and I was like, they didn't have couches back then. But it says that in the Bible. It's so funny, some of the things that are in the Bible. The word unicorn is in the Bible. I literally, it's in there a couple times.
Yeah.
And my whole brand is based on like unicorns, and I just really, it's really cool. So anyway, all right, moving on to the next question, and then we'll get into another fun fact.
Yeah.
What are some of your most memorable or needed verses or stories? You kind of touched on some of the most impactful parts.
Stories, yeah.
I'll tell you one of my most memorable. I'll start with this because
memorable Bible
I'm
verse?
cheating, guys. This is my memory verse book where I literally break down every week. I'll go in here and I'll tell you how I do it. Actually, I start out here with this little page. It's like a page before the month. Actually, it's not a page before. It's the page after the month. They call it like a little dashboard page, and this is a specific type of planner. But most planners have this monthly view, and then they might have some notes pages like maybe right after or whatever. Here's what I do. I have this spread, and I'll literally sit there and think to myself, whatever problems I'm going through, right? Like, oh, I'm having a problem with waiting for something, or oh, I need God to bless me in this way, or oh, I don't understand this, or oh, I'm angry about that. Like whatever it is I'm looking for, I'll look it up, and like these little promises, like the little books that we've shown before, like these help because if you have something like this, they'll have verses in there, right? And James has one, it's over there.
Oh yeah.
But like these help because these basically have verses for different things, like verses about freedom and verses about just different things we go through in life. What's this one?
Oh, okay.
The Holy Spirit, just whatever you want to learn about, and then it'll have the verse reference in there so you can go and look up that verse. But what I do is I do it the roundabout way, and I sit there and I think about whatever I'm going through, and then I'll look it up on the internet to say, like, what does the Bible say about this? Or if you have a concordance and you can find a buzzword, a keyword, but a lot of times you could just, Google it or do whatever, or go to Bible, .com, or no, is it Bible.com? It's not. It's an app. It's the Bible app. Blue Letter Bible, I think, is one. Man, I really should have been more prepared with this because there's a whole bunch of sources that I trust. Tony Evans is a Bible expert, and
it was Jacob. I'm sorry, who wrestled was Israel.
Oh, okay, yeah, Jacob/Israel. Yeah. So, like anything that Tony Evans writes, or he has a couple of Bibles versions of Bible out as well, like study Bibles. So what you want to do is you want to find a credited source, and you want to Google, like I just Google and I just look from there to see what looks, credible. And I'll look up whatever word or whatever subject I'm looking for to look up. And I'll find, like, what does the Bible say about red shirts or whatever, right? What does the Bible say about anger? What does the Bible say about, just something random? What does the Bible say about marriage? What does the Bible say about bananas? Well, like I've never looked that up, but I'm just putting something out there. Like whatever I'm going through, what does the Bible say about finances? What does the Bible say about women? What does the Bible say about whatever? And I'll look it up, and then I'll list those verses here, and then I'll read through them. And what I like to do is I like to read the entire verse before I like to read the entire chapter before I write down the verse to make sure that I'm understanding it the right way. Because some of them are like, hard to understand if you didn't read the context, like what was happening. So I like to remind myself certain things, but I'll tell you a couple of my favorite ones. And it's funny because now that I've been doing this for almost 2 years, because I have a whole nother book like this that I filled up last year, but I noticed sometimes that I'll be writing out a verse and I'll be like, I wrote this before, right? So it's like, oh yeah, I did this back in August or whatever, or I did this last year around this time. It's like really interesting to go back and see like what I was going through at that time. It's not necessarily relevant to that sometimes, just like whatever I feel like I need to learn. But so this one is a good one. First Corinthians, and this isn't even part of our reading. We haven't even gotten to Corinthians. First Corinthians 9:24. And let me read the English Standard Version. Do you not know that in a race all the runners run, but only one receives the prize? So run that you may obtain it. Basically, like, don't just do something just to do it. Do it to win. You know what I'm saying? Like, do it the best you can do it. Another one that the one that you, was it Joshua 1:9? There was one that I always,
I think that's it. That's a good one.
Yeah, there, when I got my I was going to the dentist last year and I had to get some work done. And even though you're going to a professional and they're going to take care of you, I still was like scared. And James called me right as I was getting walking down the street about to go into the office, and he was like, I know you're scared, and I just wanted to remind you of this. And it was Joshua 1:9, I believe. I'm trying to find it right now, but I bet it'll be easier for me to like just look it up in here. But it's basically about courage. And I was so glad that he had called me right then. And I was like, thank you so much. I was like, read it again, please. So hold on, I'm gonna find it right now. 332. Yeah, that's a good one. There's a couple of them that I use for work. And they mostly have to do with like working for God and not working for people, just trying to do what God wants you to do and thinking of it like that. Yeah, okay, here it is. Joshua 1:9. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be terrified or dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. And that's one thing that I always like to keep with me. It's be strong and courageous.
I got some.
You got some? Okay, cool.
Give me 1 second.
So look, I can do this for a minute. So Joshua 1:9 is one of my favorites. I definitely be strong and courageous. I always have to remember that. Let's see. One of the ones, this one is a good one. And I feel like our pastor, shout out to United Baptist Church. Our pastor, Pastor Pope, had I think done a sermon on this one time. And when I needed it wasn't, that didn't come to my mind. But when I was writing it out, I was like, I think our pastor did a sermon on this one time. But this is about discipline, right? Proverbs 12:1. Whoever loves discipline loves to learn, but whoever hates correction is dumb. It's a dumb something.
Yep.
You fill in the blank.
Yeah, I figured it out. I figured out what Bible verse.
Okay, so go ahead with yours, and I'm going to figure out what I think is. I think this is Proverbs 12:1.
I like Mark 11:24.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Okay, tell us what Mark 11:24 is. I love that.
Therefore, I say unto you, what things soever ye desire, when ye pray, believe it, that ye receive them, and ye shall have them.
Mm-hmm. Whatever you believe when you pray, if you believe that you have it, then you already received it. And it's another one right around that about having faith as small as a mustard seed. And it's like, if you tell the mountain to move, it will move. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? If you have faith. But if you don't have, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, why not have faith? Because God has given you this power to do this thing. If you believe it, then it's real.
Yep. And also, we haven't got to this reading yet. This is one of my favorite Bible verses because I need this in my life constantly. And whatever Jesus said is the truth. And this is about judging people.
Oh, yeah. He definitely need that one, y'all. I'm going to tell you right now.
I do. You know. It's Matthew 7, 1-5. And it says, judge that you not be judged. For the judgment you pronounce, you will be judged. With the measure you use it, you'll be measuring you.
Mm.
Why do you see a speck that is in your brother's eye,
Yep.
but you don't notice the log that is in your own eye? Or how can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, when there's a log in your own eye?
Mm.
You hypocrite. First take the log out your own eye, and then you will see clearly to take the speck out your brother's eye.
Mm-hmm.
So you gotta, that's what you have to understand. Like, you're sitting there judging people,
mm-hmm.
and your stuff smells too, maybe
Yeah.
worse than them.
Mm.
But you gotta that what that means is to me is stop judging everybody and stop judging people and focus on what you have going on.
Because you can't even change people. Like, that's one thing that I'm learning, I'll say. Like, you can't change people who they are. All you can do is do whatever you can do for yourself. You know what I mean? Like, if you don't like someone, let's say, if you don't like somebody and you have to encounter them on a regular basis, like, you're not going to change the person who they are. You can just make it within yourself so that whatever they're doing that you don't like doesn't bother you, right? Like, that's just an example, right? Like, you just can't change other people or other, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes you can have an effect, but you can't bank on changing someone. I found this. I just wanted to read it straight out from the Bible, because when I read it from my own handwriting, it didn't really look that great. Proverbs 12:1. Whoever loves instruction and discipline loves knowledge, but he who hates reproof and correction is stupid. And the word stupid is in the Bible in the Amplified version. That's right. But it's interesting because, it's one of those things that discipline doesn't feel good. There's another verse that I wrote in here that I'm not going to even bother looking for because I don't know how long it will take me. But discipline doesn't necessarily feel great when it is upon you, but the effect of having discipline in your life is that you get to grow. You know what I'm saying? It's that you get to become a better person. If you just avoid discipline at all costs, then you're just never going to grow. You're just going to be the same old person for the rest of your life. And circumstances, you're not going to advance through. You're not going to learn new things about yourself or get better. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of times discipline, even though it's not like pleasant sometimes, is what we need in order to become better people and better, and advance towards our goals and just become better people all around.
Yeah. So I got two more and then I think we're going to move on.
Yep.
I got Proverbs 13:11, and that says, wealth gained hastily will dwindle, but whoever gathers it little by little will increase it. We hear that a lot. Lottery winners, man. That is, and then Proverbs 29:25. The fear of a man lies a snare, but whoever trusts in the Lord is safe. I trust the Lord.
Yeah. That's sometimes hard to remember too, which is what takes me back to Joshua 1:9. Is that, be strong and courageous because God is with you wherever you go. I just paraphrased. That's not the exact verse, but the first, it starts with be strong and courageous. And it's like, if God is with you wherever you go, then, why you gotta be scared? So, okay, you got another one, and then we're going to move right on.
Proverbs 27:2. And the reason I have these Bible verses and we haven't read them yet is because I listened to Faith and I broke down what I am thinking about at that time, like anxiety, worrying, not being good enough, failure. So all of these Bible verses that I'm saying, I have wrote them down. They're on my audio.
That's what's up. Look at this guy. I love him.
Yeah. So what was it? Proverbs 27:2. Let another praise you, and not from your own mouth. A stranger, and yet not from your own lips. Don't praise yourself. Be very careful. Yeah.
That's a toughie because I think
I know I do that, and you shouldn't.
Well, the thing is, I think it's a thin line between, beating yourself up all the time and trying to affirm yourself out of that. Because I could talk really bad to myself sometimes, but I noticed it. And I started to realize, like, this isn't helpful. And this is not how God talks to me, right? Like, that's another thing. It's like God gives me love and encouragement. And it kind of started happening that I noticed this after we started listening to those affirmations at night. Because God wants you to have fun. God just wants you to follow his precepts. Right? But he wants you to enjoy life. So why am I over here calling myself bad names or telling myself that I can't do things when God doesn't say that to me? So I think what you're saying, though, is a thin line between giving yourself praise and saying, I'm the best that ever did it, and between affirming yourself and saying, I am powerful. I can do this. I am worthy of success. Right? You know what I'm saying?
I don't think that's praise.
I mean, you could say I did a good job on that.
That's uplifting.
I think you could say I did a good job on that. I think
praising is boastfulness.
Okay.
That's what I think it means. When you're, like you said, I'm the greatest. You're not. God is.
Right, exactly. And you could say I'm the greatest, but like let somebody else say it. Yeah, that's what the Bible verse says. Yeah, like we don't need to hear that from you. Because as soon as you say it, it's like, thanks. Okay, great. So anyway, all right, back to these. So I'm gonna go in with another fact. Okay, I'm gonna ask you this and see if you know. Most people should know this. How many books are there in the Bible?
66.
Oh, are there?
I think so.
Yeah, there's 66 books in the Bible, although there has been chatter that I've heard that there are books from the Bible that are not included in the Bibles that we read, right? There's another few, like there's another, I don't know how many there are, books that were not included that probably theologians have, access to or they've read.
I want to go to Ethiopia. I saw a Bible that was like really old.
My thing is this, though.
I was like, that'll be cool to go read.
My thing is this.
Or just look at it.
Maybe those were left out for a reason. Like, I don't know. Maybe we can't have all the information because who knows what we would do with it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I do want to go like
what if they could be easily misinterpreted or something?
Yeah, I want to go to I do want to go to Ethiopia and different parts of Africa and see these historical places like King Solomon Temple. There's still places that have it.
You know what? When I said how many books are in the Bible, now that makes me wonder how many verses. But that's not really important. Okay, so we've gotten through some facts here, guys. I'm going to ask a couple more questions, and then we're probably going to, because you have a fact that I want you to share too.
Yeah.
So here's some fun facts about the Bible, and I'll share some fun facts and some of my opinions as well. God's promises are in there. Because you got to think, like, this is one of the reasons why I wanted to read it anyway, because I feel like, I should as a Christian. And then also, like, I want to know what God says. What is God promising me? Like, what is the thing that I should be looking forward to? And I wanted to know, like, am I just out of ignorance, just sinning more than I, of course you are. You're sinning when you don't know it. But I'd like to at least get some baseline idea of, what's a sin, just so that I can, have that. But I think what happens is, and this kind of goes into, I didn't even mean to do this, but it's helpful to know these things because it's helpful in life. There's a lot that we go through that, like you just saw, we're able to pull on Bible verses, and that's really helpful. So if you read the Bible, I'm sure it'll happen for you too. Sometimes, here's another reason why I think people should read the Bible, because sometimes other people who have read it, like let's say I come to you and you haven't read it, right? And it's like, now you're relying on my word, you know what I'm saying? Rather than knowing for yourself. And a lot of people go around quoting the Bible and maybe are taking it out of context. They're misunderstanding and confusing the word.
Yeah.
And it's like, I know there have been times in my life where I'm like, that's in the Bible? You know what I'm saying?
Like the eye for eye. You got to read the whole context behind that and stop blurting that out. It's context when it comes to the Bible. That's how God is. He's very specific with instructions and orderly. And you can't read David killed Goliath and then not read the rest of David's story.
For sure.
You know?
Because David didn't do a lot without going to God first. He did do some things without asking God, but
he was a poet. Not only was a warrior, he was a poet.
Musician,
warrior.
But anyway, my point for bringing that up is that you don't want to take somebody else's word for it. You might as well have a first-hand understanding for yourself. Yeah. I also feel like certain things hit people in different ways. So you might read the same verse that I read or the same chapter that I read and take something totally different out of it based on your experience or based on the details that you noticed that maybe I overlooked. So I just think you should have a baseline understanding. Not like you got to memorize it, because I barely even know what parts of the Bible I've learned things in. But I remember the stories, which is why I think a lot of times the stories help you to retain information. Yeah. They say that with TED Talks, right? Like you should be good at storytelling because of that. All right. So here's a good question for you.
Okay.
What does application mean? How do you apply the word? What does application of the Bible mean to you?
Okay. Application of the Bible means, okay. This is what it means to me.
Okay.
Like we just said with the stories, right? Because everything in the Bible is very applicable to the day. How do I apply it? Is once I read the story, retain it, talk about it out. So that's how I learn. I don't learn by reading. I have to learn by regurgitating information through my mouth. How's applicable is when I hear a certain story and an event in it.
Yeah.
I have to relate it to what I'm going through in life at that particular moment. So, for instance, complaining. Every time I complain, I remember the Israelites complaining about the bread, and I shouldn't do it. That's how I apply it.
Okay.
Through the lessons of people who messed up before me.
Yeah, like I don't want to do that.
I don't want to. I'm careful now of what information, what music I'm listening to, how I'm taking it in. I'm careful with just how I overall think. Like sometimes when I stop myself before I start going down a path. Right? So if I'm sitting there and I'm judging somebody and I say, James, you don't know what they're going through, stop.
Yeah.
And that's because
that's so good.
Yeah, that's because of what Jesus said, the Bible verse. That's one of my favorite Bible verses, because I think a lot of people judge. I think a lot of people judge.
I mean, it's probably pretty natural.
It's a natural thing, right? So as soon as I start doing it, I say, stop. You don't know what somebody else is going through. You got to get your own self together. So those are things that I look at.
Yeah, that's how you apply it. So that's what application means to you. It means understanding the story and relating it to something that you're currently going through.
Yep. And then
or that you could currently see that's happening around you. Maybe you're not going through it, but other people around you are going through it.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. I would say, what does application mean to me? How do I apply the Bible? And then this is not to say that we're applying everything that we read, because we're also human. It's good to know this stuff, but I still struggle with, trusting God, which I'm getting a lot better at, because I've realized what it means for me.
Yeah.
So I guess that's my answer, is understanding what that means to me, and letting go of things, right? Like submitting and saying, like, God, I'm giving this to you. Like, I'm gonna work this task list, right? Because it's not that you could just pray everything away.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna work this task list, and at the same time I'm praying. And that's another thing I learned about applying the Bible is prayer is very important. And sometimes we can wait to pray to the last minute, And sometimes you think your prayer didn't work, but
Yeah.
God is actually working it out, or he has something that you don't know about that
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying, that he knows what's best for you. But prayer is very important. Number one, it helps you to really go over what's happening and
Yeah.
bringing it to God. But anyway, I'm all off on a tangent here. Application to me means feeling for myself like what it means, and then trying my best to apply it, and praying and like letting God handle it. Um, but I think a little bit of what you said too, which is, it helps me when I discuss things.
Yeah.
And we'll check each other, especially when it comes to like, life stuff, work stuff. It's like, now, one of James's favorite things to say to me is, now, Faith, that's not loving.
Yeah, you gotta say that. Like, yo, come on now.
Especially in the morning.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, the mornings are
That's
so
one thing
wild for
about
me.
God. He has steadfast love.
Yeah.
He's constantly loving. Here's a all right, it's 5:45. Okay.
Yeah, okay. We're almost
All right, here it
almost
is.
there.
Here it is, right? So a prophet named Isaiah named his son Marshalala
Oh God.
Hashabaz.
Let me see if I can pronounce it. The longest word in the Bible, Prophet Isaiah's son, Mahershala. Okay. Mahershala. Mahershala Lashbaz. Mahershala Lashbaz.
Yeah.
That's a long name.
Now it means plunder speedeth and spoil hatheth. And there's an actor named after this, but he shortened it.
Mm-hmm.
Mashallah Ali. His full name is Mashallah Hashabaz Ali Gilmore. So he's named after Isaiah's son. He'll probably say it way better than we can because it's his name.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a fun fact.
So I'm gonna have another fun fact after this. What is okay? So this might be redundant. We might have to. I was gonna ask you, what is something you learned about yourself or life in general by reading the Bible?
I'm gonna be really honest.
Mm-hmm.
I sin a lot.
Oh, wow.
And I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I don't know if I would have made it back then if there was a tabernacle.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know, man. Because can you imagine you're sitting outside your house and you see a cloud of thunder and you know that's God? That's how close he is to you. And how hard it is not to sin when it's our nature to.
Yeah.
It's kind of difficult. I'm not gonna lie. It was, and God loves us, but he gets angry now, especially when you're worshiping other gods.
Yeah.
Oh.
So so I'll say what's something I learned about myself or life in general by reading the Bible. I learned about okay, this is not good because I don't have an answer for this, but I learned that when given a choice, I'll choose like comfort or familiarity over what is being
given to me, what
God is telling me to do. Okay, because here's why I say that. Oh, Lord Jesus, forgive me.
That's real. I do that.
But this is something that I discovered as I was reading.
Yeah.
Specifically, Moses and others. I think it may have even started with Abraham when I noticed this, because Abraham used to be Abram, and he started out by lying that his wife was his sister. Now, he did that because he thought that he was protecting himself. Yeah. Again, didn't have faith in God, right? Yeah. Like, we see that because I suffer from that.
It was different back then, though, guys. I'm not mad at them for doing it.
I'm not mad at none of them.
It's different, man.
I'm grateful.
Back then, people were, if you had a beautiful sister, you might get raped. Seriously.
Yeah.
It was like It was vicious back then.
Yeah,
Go
there was
ahead.
a
I'm
lot
sorry.
going on.
But
No, it's
yeah.
all good. So I
Yeah.
learned about myself that, when these people are approached by God or by an angel or by, whatever, and they're like, this is God's command to you, go to do this. Like, take Moses, for instance. He had in a burning bush, and he understood that God wanted him to go to the, what do they call it? Pharaoh.
Yes, go to
He
Pharaoh.
wanted to go to Pharaoh
Yep.
and tell them to let his people go or whatever it was, right?
Yeah.
And at the time, it's like, oh, that's not.
I can't even speak properly,
right? Like that's not what I can do. You know what I'm saying? It's just like I don't see myself, coming out of this alive. I don't see myself succeeding at this. This is going to be hard. A lot of times when they were going to battle, they would ask God, like, are you going to give them over to me in my hand, like type of thing. And I would just notice that, like, for me, there are times when I feel like I hear from God and God's telling me do this. And sometimes I'll be like, okay, yes, this is hard. I'm going to do it. Other times I stall. I ignore, or I like okay, so I put off. I second guess myself, and it's not even myself. I think that God is prompting me when He's giving me those sort of like commands, like do this, prompting me to use His power, right? Tap into God, and yeah, you can't do it yourself, Faith, right?
Yeah.
Use me.
Yeah.
Understand that I'm going to come to you when it's time. And we see that in all of these battles that are happening too, because what happens is they'll be going with, like let's say 300 men against thousands. And the 300 men will pummel the thousands, and they'll take over everything, or somebody will get scared and they'll run back the other way, and they're that way. But we see where other people in the Bible have taken on half of, like Saul was really bad about that. Do a little bit of what God said and do a little bit of what He wanted. And I see the problem with that, but I still see it in myself. So I think that's something that I've learned about myself, that I don't, when given the choice, oh man, and that's hard to admit. I don't want nobody to know that, but I'm just saying it because it's real. When given the choice to follow what God is commanding me to do in comfort, I kind of choose comfort, and it's not by I don't say not by design. It's not something that I'm proud of. It's just something that I've learned about myself by reading the Bible. So we're still working through that, guys. We're all a work in progress.
I'm gonna be working on that for the rest of my life.
Let me give you one more fun fact, and then I have the last question that'll close us out. Okay. I know you have. Okay. Yeah. So this is a question that my sister told me she looked up. How tall was Jesus? Like, I never had to ask that, but now I'm curious, right? So I looked it up, and from history.com, they're saying that he was about 5 feet 5 inches. And it says he may have stood, which was the average man's height at the time. Yeah, I think if he wasn't average, they would have said that in the Bible, like, oh, he was so tall, or he was taller than average. Yeah. But also what that question brought up was, who was the tallest person in the Bible? And James's answer was,
I thought it was
Goliath, but in fact, it says Og, the Amorite, whose height was like the heights of the cedars and whose strength was like that of the oaks. So maybe he was kin to Goliath. I feel like he might have been Goliath's relative.
Yeah, I think you read that.
All right, closing it out, guys. This is a fun episode. Why did it take you as long as it did to start reading the Bible?
I wasn't following God's instructions. And I was worried about, like, the perception of it. I was worried about
the perception of it.
Yeah, people don't be liking people that read the Bible and speak Jesus'
name. Oh my gosh.
They don't.
I don't think you were worried about that.
Nah, man, I was, man. And also, I was kind of like, I don't have time for it.
There it is.
Like, I don't have time. And we were supposed to be doing this
before we even got married.
We talked about this, reading the Bible together in 2018 or 17. And it took us probably to, and we really want to be more consistent, but we're starting to get more and more time to God and reading the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm going to be honest with you, He has blessed us beyond what we can imagine. I can only imagine if we follow His instruction more. But the reason that it took me long to, He's telling us to tap in. I can bless you. I think once we tap in, we're going to be, on a different level. But because He says that, tap into me, I'll bless you.
Yeah, beyond your,
I'm going to give you everything you want. You just got to fear me and follow my instructions or follow my will. But it was time. Time was the main one. And you said this today. You said that this is off camera. You'll put something off. You'll be like, oh, I'm going to get to that. I think we were putting it off for a long time. And then now that we kind of started doing it, I need it. Because number one,
ain't that something? It's like exercise.
It's like exercise. You connect with God. It's nothing like reading the Bible in the morning, guys. My day goes a lot better. Because when I'm reading the Bible, it's always a lesson in there. I learn something every time that I read the Bible.
True tea.
And then I'll be like, all right, I need to think better. I need to do this better. So that's why.
Okay, I'll answer this quickly and then we're going to wrap. Why did it take me as long as it did to start reading the Bible? Overwhelmed. When you think about how many books and characters and things like that are in the Bible, it's just like, it's so big. And then you think you have all this time in the world to do these things. And I realized actually, by going to church and being reminded all the time, like, you guys need to be reading your Bible when you go home. Don't just come to church and think that you're going to learn the entire Bible. So it was going to church and then surrounding myself with people, really via the internet, like the content that I consume. Yeah. Like I love to watch Joyce Myers. Yeah. I love to watch different people like
Sarah Roberts. I'm naming
Sarah Roberts.
T.D. Jake's daughter. You like it?
Yeah.
Sorry,
Sarah Jakes Roberts. So I love to get that, and it's so funny because it was always a bad time that brought me to like one of the things we watch all the time, or from time to time, is that crushing video with T.D. Jakes and Pastor Furtick. It's just so good. It's like chicken soup for the soul. So anyway. It took a long time for me because I kept putting it off, like James said, and I was overwhelmed. It just seemed like it was too much for me to do. When in fact, when you just do a little at a time, you can get all the way through. We're 35% through. I'm really excited for us. I'm glad we didn't rush it because we're really understanding and retaining this information and are able to apply it. And to take a step further, how has it changed my life? Like he said, I need this stuff. These are like life instructions. And it's like, I don't have to learn it all and use it all right away, but it's just good to know. You know what I'm saying? It's like having a bunch of cooking instructions and spices, because when you need it, you need it. And it is like exercise because it gives you energy. There's so many times when I'm realizing that I could either have a bad day or I could have a good day, and it's my choice.
And a lot of good days when I read the Bible.
A lot of times it's a Bible verse that changes my thinking or my perception of something. And it's like, just asking God, like, what do you want me to get out of this? Like, what am I supposed to do here? And he will answer me. And it's like, oh, and then when I do that, it's like, oh, this is a much better situation, or, oh, I didn't see it that way before. So it's definitely helped me to just have a better quality of life on a regular basis. Yes, there are some challenging times. It doesn't always happen right away, but having the information is much better than the life before, where I just was going from scratch and just being angry, trying to figure it out on my own, and basically becoming miserable because you don't really know what to do and you're not looking towards a solution. So Yeah, that's why it took me so long. So if you suffer from one of those reasons,
Yep.
trust and believe that it's going to be to your benefit to just start picking up and just reading periodically, and you'll get there. So anyway, thanks for joining us today on our fun Bible facts and sharing. And we will see y'all next week. We'll continue to read Psalms, and I think we're in 2 Samuel. So see ya. Bye. Oh, wait. Don't forget, don't take our word for it. Go to the source. Read your Bible. Oh, man, I almost forgot.